Night Hall. Carlos Sainz was not a man to give up, never has been, never will be. He was 0.6 of a second only quicker than Mäkinen on stage 12, the third of the morning. And it's very difficult, he says. The conditions are appalling. We only practiced that stage, stage 17, 3 times. He said, I'm surprised we went quite so quickly. Well, strength in depth in the Toyota squad, no question about that. Markus Grönholm took third place from Juha Kankkunen on stage 10. He went off at the end of stage 11, losing third place, then took it back again on stage 12, despite breaking his windscreen on one heavy landing. So the battle of the Finns over third place, and after the first segment of stages on day 2, it was Markus Grönholm who was in charge. Juha Kankkunen in the Ford. Well, he was trying his very best to match the pace of his countryman. Tommi Mäkinen leading and Grönholm in third place ahead of him. Tommy's driving very fast, said Juha Kankkunen. I just can't go any quicker. Either the driver's too old or the car is. Well, we know that Ford are apt to replace the car next year with the brand new Focus. They've got no plans to do such a drastic act with the 4-time world champion. He only lost third place, in fact, on stage 12 because of a broken wheel rim. He didn't lose an awful lot of time, but you don't need to when the going is as quick as it is here in Finland. Carlos Sainz was running relatively trouble-free. It seems it may well be Didier Auriol's turn to have trouble yet again this season. He had quite a large off on the second stage of the morning, stage 11. He damaged the car, but held on to 5th place overall. There's the damage evidenced at the rear. According to Ari Vatanen, the ditch that Auriol had been off in looked as though somebody had worked on it for half a day with a bulldozer. Again, the Finn quotable as ever. Well, it's not all about Toyota in the top half dozen, because Britain's Richard Burns is in there. He spun and lost some 20 seconds in the morning's first test, stage 10. He was just 8 seconds behind teammate Mäkinen on stage 12. And that's a little surprising, he said. Harry Rovanperä learning fast, especially about tyre choices on the new car. Lost his brakes at the end of stage 11. But other than that, the new set going well. Well, all the drivers complaining about the pace of the activity, and all of them needing heavy massage after high-speed landings from some of the quick jumps. Let's hear now from Markus Grönholm.
On the second stage in the morning, so I did a mistake in the last junction, so I stopped there and we lost maybe a little bit over 10 seconds. So now without that, so we could be very good.
Well, here is the Toyota of Didier Auriol off the road on stage 11. And it seems as though it may have been quite a heavy impact. A little bit after the start of special stage 11, he said, in a very slippery junction, I slid a bit wide coming out, but it was just enough to put the wheels into the ditch. There was quite a long straight and we couldn't get back onto the road, so he said, I just stayed flat out in the ditch to try and get out of it, hoping that there wouldn't be any rocks in there. Eventually, he said, the car came out, but we did hit something with the back.
Pour monter sur la route en espérant qu'il n'y avait pas un gros rocher en face. Et la voiture est revenue sur la route au dernier moment. Ça fait un petit choc à l'arrière. Et puis voilà quoi.
Well, no major damage to the car. He did lose a little bit of time though. But Auriol, in the tradition of rally drives, of course, get yourself into a problem, just keep your foot welded to the throttle and hope that it'll sort itself out. So a dramatic morning for the Frenchman, if not for his colleague in the Toyota team, Carlos Sainz. Sainz slipping from 7 seconds to 23.6 seconds from leader Tommi Mäkinen. Grunholm and Kankkunen hard at it for third place. Oriol and Burns holding station 5th and 6th. Welcome back to our coverage of Rally Finland Day 2 and the second section of the second leg. Carlos Sainz in the Toyota, always among the top 3 on stage times, but had lost 18.8 seconds to leader Tommi Mäkinen in 5 stages. Mind you, that was 121 kilometres of fiendishly fast Finnish forests. So no mechanical problems for Sainz, just purely one of the pace of the leader. Tommi Mäkinen blitzing away from the Spaniard despite the dreadful conditions. Well, a precautionary drive shaft change at service after the first group of stages for Mäkinen, and he had aggravated his injured back on the heavy landings on stage 10. But he says, and quote, "We're going flat out, but under control." So Mäkinen setting a blistering pace. The battle for third place, just as tough as the battle for the lead. Finn Markus Grunholm apparently found his extra pace on stage 12, a brand new one, by seeing where the others had braked and then braking a little later. Brave man, Markus. Well, the tactic worked for him. He went through the 30 kilometres, 8.9 seconds quicker than anyone else. And that helped him stay ahead of Juha Kankkunen, at least temporarily. Kankkunen was fastest on the next stage, stage 13. "It's the road I used to go to my father-in-law's house," he said. Didier Auriol damaged a sump guard after a heavy landing and needed physio on his neck after the same thump. He lost 3 seconds on stage 14. He said, "My notes just don't fit." Well, propping up the top half dozen, Richard Burns in the Mitsubishi. But Didier Auriol and Denis Giraudet in trouble with the notes.
Non, on n'a pas un problème de notes. Simplement, Didier trouve que ses notes sont pas assez vite, quoi. Donc on en a changé beaucoup.
Didier thinks the notes aren't quite quick enough, says Denis Giraudet. "We have changed a little of them since the start, but I think it's a bit too late." Yes, well, that's not really what you want to do, be lacking in confidence or go changing your notes mid-event at these kind of speeds. We're absolutely flat out, says Carlos Sainz, because Juha is right behind us, and so we just can't afford to go any slower at all. Well, Juha Kankkunen flying in this area he knows so well. Let's hear why.
You crossed the city of your wife today, no?
Yes.
The 13th?
Yeah, my wife is from there, yes.
Is the reason you were so fast?
I know the road quite well.
It's the road to his father-in-law's house, and yet he knows it well. Now there is a loyal son-in-law. Tommi Mäkinen leading then by an extending advantage, over 25 seconds now from Carlos Sainz. But look at that, just 2.1 seconds still in the battle for third place between the Finns Grunholm and Kankkunen. Almost a minute behind them, Didier Auriol and Richard Burns. So moving on then, stages 15 and 16, the third part of leg 2, and Marcus Grunholm really struck problems here in his battle. He punctured 10 kilometres into stage 16, the longest of the rally at over 34 kilometres. He drove 25 Ks on the Moose, and finally the wheel rim broke up about 4 kilometres from the end of the event, and he went off into a ditch. He drove out, but lost 3 minutes and 45 seconds, dropping from 3rd place to 7th place in the process. So the battle with Kankkunen effectively over, and Marcus Grunholm with that second blow to his efforts during the day, dropping right down the order. There he is, being helped out by the spectators. And isn't it astonishing when you get to an abandoned forest how quickly people appear out of the woods whenever a rally car goes off. Many a rally has been saved for a driver by spectators in just such a manner. Carlos Sainz then, fastest on both 15 and 16, but it only brought him 3.4 seconds closer to Mäkinen. Juha Kankkunen dropping from 9 to 18 seconds in arrears of Sainz, but Kankkunen in 3rd place. Perhaps none of his relatives live around here then. The Finns waiting for the next car to arrive, and it's Didier Auriol still in the fight, and now up to 4th place after Grunholm's problems, but Auriol is 57 seconds behind Juha Kankkunen in 3rd. Tommi Mäkinen lost just 0.3 of a second to Carlos Sainz on stage 16, and that was 34.5 kilometres. He hit a rock but got away scot-free. His new Michelin tyres, extremely good, he says, and he's holding his lead. Well, Mäkinen, the first man on the road, occasionally meeting spectators, and on one occasion on Friday, a dog in the middle of the stage. And he put out a public appeal after the first evening to spectators to please pay attention when the zero course car had been through, because he didn't want to be coming up behind them when they weren't paying attention. Well, this is the sad and sorry state of Marcus Grunholm's Toyota, and the lanky Finn looking even more down in the dumps than he was earlier during the day. He was having a great battle with Juha Kankkunen, and now that seems to be over.
Maybe 10 kilometers from the start I hit a stone inside. I was cutting too much, but I thought, okay, no problem, it was shaking a little bit. But then 4 kilometers from the end, just before the very bad left, so the wheel was going under and I went straight off, and we was down in the deep ditch, so I couldn't come up, and we need a lot of spectators. So.
How fast were you going?
When I went off, I can't say, I don't know, 80, 90.
Were you lucky to get back on the road?
Yeah, very lucky, so thanks to spectators. So.
Is your rally now finished, or can you continue?
I think we can continue, yes, I hope so.
You were going so well, you looked at one point you might even be able to push for the lead. Is that now all gone?
Yes, it seems to be so. What can we do? Bad luck.
Thanks.
Bad luck indeed for Marcus Grunholm, and phlegmatic, I think, is the word you would have to use there. A tough event, and his home rally at that. Well, tough too for the Finnish Toyota Importers mechanics. New suspension, straightening out the bodywork, re-welding up the front bulkheads, putting in a new windscreen. It just goes on and on and on. Don't ask me to quote, Gov. So then, after stage 16, 2/3 of the day gone, Tommi Mäkinen leading by 22 seconds. And Juha Kankkunen now feeling a little more comfortable, I think, about 3rd place in his Ford Escort WRC. But look, only 5 seconds between Burns and Radstrom, 5th and 6th. We continue our coverage with day 2 of Rally Finland, the final group of stages, stages 17 and 18. And Tommi Mäkinen, the leader, looking to be on target for that record 5th Finnish win. Fastest on stage 17, looking very confident. According to co-driver Risto Manisenmäki, he thinks that that's Tommy's favourite stage. He thinks every time it's been run, Tommy has been quickest. Well, no major problems for Carlos Sainz in 2nd place, but, says Luis Moya, his co-driver, I take my hat off to Tommy for his time on stage 17. Didier Auriol chasing hard in 4th place, but Sainz holding on to 2nd, and comfortably clear, at the moment at least, of Juha Kankkunen. Kankkunen in 3rd place, Juha Repo, his co-driver, complaining. He says, Juha was driving so fast that I had trouble holding on to the notes on some of the jumps. Plan for the final day, look at the weather, and then push. Didier Auriol trying different tyres on stage 17, which were a complete failure, he says, but as he's relatively safe in 4th place, he thinks they've got a little bit more time to test with setups. Incidentally, in Formula 2, Alistair McRae leads overall in his VW Golf from Tony Gardemeister's Seat Ibiza. Gardemeister rolled out of the lead on stage 14 and lost power steering later in the day. Mark Higgins, 3rd overall at the moment, 22 seconds behind Gardemeister. And countryman Richard Burns, 4th fastest on stages 17 and 18, apparently becoming a real star in Finland. Crowds around him, while all the regular stars, your Mäkinens, your Vatanens and your Kankkunens, get completely ignored. What is it about lanky redheads from Reading? Thomas Radstrom then, 6th place, went off on stage 17, fastest on the spectator special at the end of the day, stage 18, as he had been the day before. He's just 7.5 seconds behind Burns at the end of the day. Incidentally, 4th in Formula 2, while we think about it, is Wayne Bell from Australia in the remaining Hyundai, despite clutch failure and a major oil leak. Here is Jarmo Leito, 12th overnight. He's climbed to 8th during the day in his 2nd ever event in the Subaru, having won the Manta Rally last time out. Harry Vatanen won in a rear-wheel drive Escort in 81. He had a rear-wheel drive Escort on stage 17 again today. That wasn't by design, that was because the diff failed, but at least he kept the crowd entertained. 10th overall, Pasi Hagstrom in the private Toyota Celica. Can't afford to push the lead, as he says. We just don't have the spares. Bruno Thierry, 11th in the 2nd of the Works Escorts, only broke into the top 10 times on stages 17 and 18 all day. He says, it's such a shame, it's a beautiful rally, I just need a switch in my head to make me quicker. Harry Rovanperä, 12th despite a spin, and not being quite confident enough of the car over the jumps. He punctured and slid off on stage 17 as well, but he seems determined to get the brand new Seat WRC to the finish. So that's how they look at the end of leg 2. Group N being led by Gustavo Trellis Mitsubishi from local man Hannu Jokinen and Abdullah Bakashab of Saudi Arabia in the Toyota.
Has been working all right, and everything, tires and everything, tire choice and everything has been all right. So it's quite good lead at the moment, but everybody going very fast at the moment, and it's really we need to go flat out all the time. It's really 120%.
As we mentioned at the beginning of the weekend, a brand new manufacturer joins the World Rally Car class on Rally Finland, and Seat with their new Cordoba WRC debuted here for Oriol Gomez and Harry Rovanperä. Gomez already gone out of the event on day 1, but Rovanperä, despite all sorts of odd noises and handling new car type problems, determined, it seems, to get the car to the end to get maximum test mileage. Let's hear now from team manager Jay McPooch.
Se tiene una sensación de todo, ¿no? Diríamos.
We are very delighted, very enthusiastic, very happy to be here in Finland with the brand new car, he says, and that surely must be an understatement considering the usual level of buoyancy in SEAT. Big responsibility, he says. A lot of people have been involved in this and they're waiting to see what we can do. Everybody's worked so hard because it's so much more complicated than our other cars.
Que es bastante más complicado que el otro y que bueno, en esto estamos trabajando duro desde hace un tiempo y seguiremos los próximos años.
Well, a new class, new machinery, new problems and new rivals to deal with. And Rovan Pera doing his very best to meet them all head on. Looking pretty pacey, it must be said, on the pages, on the stages. And currently holding down at 12th overall. Not bad at all.
La fin de saison est envisagée comme autant de
The rest of this season, says the technical director Benoit Bagger, it will really be an extended test session for us. Preparing the car and testing the team for the 1999 season. That's really how we'll be looking at it, no matter what the results are. Well, Oriol Gomez out early on, a disappointment for him. But Rovan Pera continuing despite the off that we saw at the beginning of the programme.
For me now, I need to go slowly and arrive at the end and take experience and to do a lot of kilometers for watching and continuing changing many parts about the car, and maybe in after the race we know more things.
So out of the running, but still on the test programme, it would seem, no matter how far down the order he is. And it's good to see new cars arriving. The Seat Ibizas doing well enough. In second place in Formula 2 at the moment, chasing Alistair McRae's VW Golf. But the Cordoba WRC machine, brand new to the championship and brand new to Finland. And there must be a few headaches going on in the team this week. So tomorrow's leg, 6 special stages, as you can see, 99 kilometres, bringing the total competitive kilometerage to 384. Will Mitsubishi and Tommi Mäkinen do it? A 5th win for Mäkinen, a 4th consecutive for Mitsubishi, a World Rally Championship records double. It looks entirely possible. But this man may have something to say about it, and so too may the conditions. Sainz versus Mäkinen versus the weather. It looks as though the final day of Rally Finland 1998 will be as gripping as day 1 and day 2. Join us for coverage and the full results tomorrow evening here on Eurosport. Until then, I'm Martin Haven. Goodbye. The third and final day of Rally Finland, ride with Carlos Sainz and Luis Moya, the World Championship leaders. Well, classic Finnish stage mileage in day 3. Not very much of it though, 99 kilometres, less than a quarter of the overall distance in just 6 special tests to bring them back before nightfall. Tommi Mäkinen, the overnight leader by 34.4 seconds from 7 the night before going into the final day. He's taken 6 fastest stage times so far and could be heading for a new record. A 5th win for him on the event and 4 on the trot for Mitsubishi. Carlos Sainz, 2nd overall, fastest on 4 special stages since the start of the event. Victory may not be important though. Arch rival Colin McRae has failed to get this far, retiring after day 1. 3rd overall, Juha Kankkunen, 2 wins on special stages so far. He might still win it if Mäkinen and Sainz hit problems, but he's only 16 seconds behind Sainz, so 2nd place realistically might even be a struggle for the Flying Finn in the Ford. Kankkunen 1 minute and 8 seconds ahead of Didier Auriol, though, at the end of day 2. And there are the way they finished. Mäkinen, 34 seconds should be a comfortable margin from Sainz, but anything can happen in rallying and may yet do. Richard Burns has moved up to 5th place at the end of day 2. Thomas Radstrom's disasters dropping him down to 6th. Well, early morning fog adding to the rain and the cloud and the mist and all the other murk that the drivers have experienced, and the finish track's now getting more and more rutted. Richard Burns, fastest on stage 19, the first of the day. Here's Mitsubishi Charisma. He said, with all the fog, it's a little bit like rallying in Great Britain. He said, I got big air on some of the jumps on that stage, but the car's fine. Good for me, as I've already been through this stage already on the first day, and I almost felt like I knew it. Third fastest on stage 20 he was, holding 5th overall. But chasing him hard, Marcus Grönholm, just behind him in 6th position. Fastest on stage 20 he was. He said, we'll continue to push for quick times. We had a bit of bad luck yesterday and we want to show that we can go fast. The roads seem fine for our Corolla. Indeed they do. Well, what about the rally leader? Tommi Mäkinen taking things slightly easy in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 5. 7th on the first stage of the day and 4th on the second. 0.2 of a second he extends his lead. At the end of stage 20, he said, the stage has always been a bad one for me. I was driving very carefully here, but now I'm out of it, I'll be all right on the next stage. So even world champions have their bogey stages, even on their home event. And Mäkinen taking no chances on stage 20. And you can see the track marking up Carlos Sainz, 4th place on stage 19, 6th place on stage 20. But they were short stages, 7 and 11 kilometers respectively, so he lost hardly any time at all. And coming into service, co-driver Luis Moya reporting no work to do, the car is okay, as indeed has been the case throughout the event. Well, what about Juha Kankkunen? 5th on the first stage of the day, 2nd on the second, and he's pushing hard to try and catch Sainz. Only 13.3 seconds now behind the Flying Spaniard, but Juha Ripo says, I think Tommy is 40 seconds clear of us, and that is safe. We know the stage is coming up, and hopefully nothing unusual should befall us. Co-driver Juha Ripo's words, I'm sure Juha Kankkunen would echo those. Didier Auriol, if Carlos Sainz has had a trouble-free run, Auriol hasn't particularly, although he doesn't seem to have had anything more really than niggling problems and a lengthy excursion along a ditch on day 2. He got out of that one, fortunately, without too much physical damage to the car. A little bit of panel bashing required on the right rear. Looks as good as new now, though. 2nd overall on the first stage of the day, 7th on the second, and he's comfortably in 4th place. Well, what about Sweden's Toyota? This is Thomas Radstrom. And the Swede continuing to keep the Corollas well up there in the order. He's 6th overall after the first 2 stages on day 1. At the end of stage 20, he said, it's just impossible for us now to catch Richard Burns. The roads just aren't suitable for the Corolla. Jarmo Kaitaleito, the only surviving Subaru Impreza on the works pair. Colin McRae having disappeared on day 1. 8th overall after stage 20, and he had problems on the first day as well, and off, losing him a lot of time and really dropping him out of contact with the leaders. Well, Subaru have their flying fin in the form of Kaitaleito, and Ford added a 2nd to their lineup alongside Juha Kankkunen in the Infogrames supported black Ford Escort. It's 1981 World Rally Champion Harry Vatanen and Escort back in 4-wheel drive trim after a stage in 2-wheel drive yesterday. Harry Rovanperä, 13th overall in the Seat Cordoba WRC, a broken shock absorber, lost him 20 seconds on the first stage of the morning. He said after a heavy landing it just broke. Might have been a result of an incident the previous day, he thought. He said anything can still happen, and the Mitsubishis hope that it won't.
Not so much pressure anymore. After second stage in the morning was bit more difficult. It's always been very difficult stage for me.